Hamas has officially agreed to release all hostages in exchange for a permanent ceasefire. They made this statement last week on Friday, which was basically the main thrust of the ceasefire deal that President Trump brokered. Now, they are also wanting to negotiate some of the other terms in the deal. And according to Axios, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu essentially wants the United States and Israel to spin this as Hamas outright rejecting Trump's peace plan. Now, of course, that's not the case. But this is repetition coming from the Israelis because this is exactly what they've done with every single ceasefire negotiation. Now, Trump allegedly wasn't too happy about what he was hearing from Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel. But honestly, don't hold your breath because we have been here before. So the report was published by Israeli journalist and former IDF soldier Barak Ravid. Two anonymous US officials also allegedly confirmed the report. Now, the report claims that Trump feared Hamas would outright reject his peace plan, and this is probably why. Take a look.
The administration, President Trump, briefed Arab leaders at the end of last week on this plan. They said, well, there are a number of things that are good with this. And then Trump met with Netanyahu and Ron Dermer, who is one of these forces of right-wing extremism in Israel. And he's an American-born advisor to Netanyahu, who was Israel's ambassador to the United States for a long time. He knows how to pull strings of American politicians. Wherever those strings and however they arise, and they changed the plan as they met and basically rewrote key parts of what Trump had told the Arabs to say, yes, and we should remember that Israel will remain in control over Gaza. They changed what they had actually briefed the leaders and then unilaterally announced something different. And this is just now being disclosed in recent hours. This is so typical.
So to reiterate, Trump goes to Arab leaders, shows them the initial peace plan. They say there's some really great things in here. We approve. Then the Trump administration meets with the Israelis. The Israelis unilaterally change the terms of the peace deal. And then they, of course, don't disclose that to the public. And so they set Hamas up to reject the deal. And miraculously, Hamas didn't reject the deal. Now, what did the revised version of the peace deal include? You're about to hear Jeffrey Sachs give you the details on that.
The way that this agreement is written is that Israel keeps its security control over Gaza. In other words, Gaza remains under Israel's dominance, which is Netanyahu's whole point.
Here's Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking in Hebrew immediately upon his return from Washington to Tel Aviv.
Everyone kept saying you have to accept Hamas's terms to withdraw everyone. The IDF needs to withdraw and Hamas can recover and also rehabilitate the strip. No way, that's not happening. On the contrary. And President Trump added that if Hamas refuses, he will give Israel full backing to complete the military operation to eliminate it.
So when it comes to Hamas accepting the deal, they accept the main, the main thrust of the deal, essentially. We will release every single hostage for a permanent ceasefire. But the finer points, meaning the removal of IDF forces from the Gaza Strip, that is what Hamas wants to continue negotiating for obvious reasons. Now, nonetheless, it turns out Trump is actually elated over the fact that Hamas has accepted the peace deal. And so even though he's excited, Netanyahu obviously feels differently. You would think he would want the hostages back, but that's never been the case. So we've learned that apparently Trump learned that Netanyahu was against it when he called him and found out that the prime minister doesn't share his optimism. Bibi told Trump, this is nothing to celebrate and that it doesn't mean anything. And Trump responded allegedly with, I don't know why you're always so effing negative. This is a win. Take it. Now, I've got more details for you, Cenk, but I'm curious what you think about where this whole peace deal stands.
Yeah, so I now have a pretty good idea of where I think it's going to go. So Israel has never wanted the hostages back. They might have wanted some of them back, but they certainly didn't want all of them back because then they wouldn't have an excuse to keep going in Gaza. So they thought, right? So Trump, on the other hand, actually does want a peace deal. You know, he cares about the Nobel Peace Prize, and he ran on anti-war. Good. I'll take it. Okay, so, and I don't think he's faking it. So will he eventually serve Israel? He almost always does. But I think on top of that, he actually does want a peace deal. So Netanyahu sets it up in a way that he thinks, well, Hamas can't possibly take it, but they wind up taking it anyway. Then he tries to add more provisions, try to kill it, say yes, but. That Hamas is saying yes, but, and that it's not really an acceptance, etc. He tries everything. He throws a kitchen sink at Trump, and Trump goes, no, I like it. They said yes, we're gonna go forward. So my guess is what happened next is Israel realized, well, we can't fight Trump on this, so let's pretend to accept. So they went back to, okay, yes, sir, of course, sir. But then he goes back and tells his home audience, as you saw there, in Hebrew, that is very important. So he doesn't want us to find out, idiot, we have AI translated bots now. We all know what you're saying anyways. And he goes, don't worry, we're never getting out of Gaza. So that's always been the case. This was always about land. He's gonna wanna take as much of Gaza as possible. If possible, the whole thing. If not, security perimeters, that's the worst case scenario for him. But ideally, he'd like to take a big giant chunk of Gaza. So he goes home and tells the Israelis, don't worry, I'm not gonna listen to that idiot Trump. We're gonna stay in there no matter what happens, right? So which leads to step number 3, Anna, and this is the prediction. So Hamas will, if this goes to fruition, and it looks like it's on a track to get there, Hamas will release the hostages, and then Israel will immediately stop listening to the deal. They'll break every ceasefire, they'll go back to bombing, etc. Why? Well, theoretically, there's a peace deal, and Trump said there was peace, and we're getting the Nobel. What happened? Well, they'll say, well, no. Hamas didn't fully comply. Hamas actually is the one breaking this deal, even though they gave the hostages back. X number of weapons were turned in, X number of Hamas was turned in, or whatever it is. You know what? It should have been X plus 2. It should have been X plus 10. It should have been 2X. Not good enough. So since Hamas didn't do an impossible standard that they couldn't possibly do, and even if they did it, we'd make up something new. We're gonna go back to bombing, back to occupying, back to taking Gaza. Because there's nothing in the world that's gonna stop Bibi Netanyahu from trying to set up greater Israel. He literally said he's on a historic and spiritual mission for greater Israel, which includes Gaza and the West Bank. So that's why, Anna, when Trump is like, wait, why aren't you optimistic? We're gonna get the hostages back. I can't believe that after all this time, he's still that naive that he thinks that Netanyahu cares about the hostages or wants peace. He wants the exact opposite, he doesn't want peace. And that there's not a single advisor to Trump who's apparently can tell him, oh, Mr. President, no, Netanyahu doesn't want to get the peace at all. And when you see it from that angle, then every one of his actions makes perfect sense.
Well, I don't think those advisors exist within the Trump administration. And if they ever did, we all know Laura Loomer targeted them and effectively got rid of them, convinced Trump to get rid of them. So congratulations. But apparently on Saturday, Trump confirmed the call took place in an interview with Barak Ravid, meaning the call with Benjamin Netanyahu. He says, quote, I said, Bibi, this is your chance for victory. He was fine with it. He's got to be fine with it. He has no choice. With me, you got to be fine, pretending as though, he's been a real tough guy with Benjamin Netanyahu when he's actually shown the entire world his whole ass about how weak he is in the face of Netanyahu. It's been a complete and utter humiliation for the American people. Trump told Axios in an interview that he was warned by his team ahead of time or ahead of the call that Netanyahu had reservations, but Trump said that when they spoke, Netanyahu agreed to move forward. Netanyahu's word is as good as a soiled diaper, in my opinion. But you can make your decision on that to the audience members watching. And negotiations for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages began today in Egypt. US envoy Steve Witkoff is heading up the US team, which is brokering the talks. And Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who wants to invest in real estate in Gaza, is also expected to attend. Pardon me if that doesn't inspire much confidence for people like me, but nonetheless, according to Ravid, Trump will not let the negotiators leave Egypt without a ceasefire in place. Take a look.
Donald Trump is completely adamant on getting a deal in the coming days. And he will do everything in his power to make it happen. That's what I learned from talking to him directly over the last few days and from talking to all of his closest advisors. He does not take as an option a collapse of those talks and that will end with no deal. I don't think Donald Trump and his team will allow either of the negotiators from both sides to leave Egypt without a deal. This is why I think there is a bigger chance than ever before that this will get done in the coming days.
Well, from his mouth to God's ears, we'll see if that happens. But I'm happy that there's some optimism here. I wish that I could partake in said optimism, but there have been so many moments over the last 2 years where it appeared that we were getting very close to a real ceasefire, a lasting, permanent end to the just unmitigated slaughter we've been seeing in Gaza. But really, I'm not gonna get excited until I see some real action and until I see Israeli troops pulling out of the Gaza Strip. And by the way, last Friday, President Trump told Israel to stop bombing Gaza after Hamas had accepted the peace deal, and they continued. In fact, they continue bombing Gaza today. The Israelis have switched their messaging to claim that they're only engaging in defense operations against a population of people who are unarmed. Okay, in reality, over 100 people have been killed in Gaza ever since Trump made that order. So Netanyahu continues to humiliate the president of the United States on the global stage, thus humiliating the American people. That's our special ally. Final word from you, Cenk?
Yeah, so look, Trump is trying to get the peace. So it's not fake. He wants it on his record. Is it about self-aggrandizing? Sure, who cares? I'd much rather have him self-aggrandize with peace than with war. And he's doing the same thing Jimmy Carter did to get peace between Israel and Egypt. I had the pleasure of interviewing President Carter about it and read all the details in his library, etc. Basically, the bottom line is he would not let the Israeli or the Egyptian leader leave Camp David until they got to a peace deal. He kept grounding their helicopters. Literally, physically wouldn't let them leave, okay? And they did get to a peace deal, and that was a real peace deal. And super last things about Jared Kushner. So folks are like, oh no, here comes Jared Kushner. He's gonna try to snake in there and get some sort of real estate deal for himself. And what's he, he's not even in the government, why is he there? All that is potentially true, certainly, right? And you should definitely be wary of him. But I think that there's a secret reason why Jared Kushner's there that they're not sharing with you guys. It's because the Arabs, Qatar, Egypt, Hamas, peace negotiators, etc., are worried that if there's not someone there to guarantee their safety, that Israel will murder them all. Because that's what Israel's done now with several peace negotiator groups in a row, with Iran and with Hamas. And now everyone is worried that if you try to get to a peace negotiation, Israel will just bomb you. So if you put Jared Kushner in there, Israel can't kill everyone in the room. I mean, if you think that's like overly skeptical or cynical, okay, fine. But I think that's part of the reason why he's there.